Okay, this coming week's Parsha is Chukat, and one of the more interesting things in Chukat, there are many interesting things in the Parsha, is the story of the Mei Mariva, the story of how Hashem told Moshe to speak to the rock in order to bring the Jews water, unlike what he had told them at a previous occasion, which was to hit the rock. He speaks to the rock and nothing happens. So it isn't as though he didn't listen or made a mistake. Nothing happened. And in desperation, the people were thirsty. They were in the desert. And, it's very easy to judge them severely. But if you could, I don't know if any of you have actually been in a desert, but if you've actually been in a desert and been thirsty, to the point that you're thinking, which is better, to die of thirst or to die of plague? I don't know if you would be that severe in your judgment of them. They were panicked. Moshe felt threatened, and he hit the rock and water came. He didn't do what Hashem had asked him, and he's immediately told, you could have sanctified me, and you didn't. Okay, so this is tragic enough, but much later in the Torah we find that Moshe blames the Jews for the fact that he couldn't enter Eretz Yisrael, which clearly seems to be a consequence of his having stricken the rock. He at that point blames it on, he says it's all the spies, which is the reason why Hashem said the Jews of that generation couldn't enter. Because of that, that's why I couldn't enter. So this is very un-Moshe-like behavior. We know that he was the most humble of people, not a person who was anxious to blame people under any circumstances. So what happened, Ramban says, is as follows. The spy episode, which is it's a difficult episode. The bottom line is what caused the episode to end so tragically was that there was a certain flaw in their trust in Hashem. Moshe understood by this point that had they been able to hold on to themselves a little longer when he was speaking to the rock, they would have learned something amazing. You know what they would have learned? They would have learned the power of prayer. They would have learned that you could speak and not get the answer you want right away. You could speak and not get the answer you want right away, and you could wait, and you could hope, and you could have trust. If they would have learned that lesson then they never would have sent spies. Now, what does this have to do with Moshe, however? He didn't sin with the spies. So the idea is as follows. We're told that had Moshe taken the Jews into Israel, everything would have been different. We would have lived up to what his leadership was. If he would have brought us in, if he would have then built the Beis HaMikdash, it could never be destroyed. It would have such sanctity. That's only a blessing, though, if we're on a level to live with it. If not, then it acts as a mockery against us and would in fact generate our destruction instead of our progress spiritually. So if we weren't on the right level, Moshe is not the right man for the job. However, what Moshe realized in the end is that the reason why we weren't on the right level, the reason why we failed so miserably by sending the spies, is because he didn't teach us what he could have taught. And what was that? That was the power of prayer. So what that tells us then is that the power of prayer not only is a consequence of having trust in Hashem, but is a cause of having trust in Hashem. So it means the more that you pray, the better your chances are to have developed faith, because you hear the words you say, and you also sharpen your spiritual eye and eventually come to notice that you do get what you pray for. Not at the moment, and sometimes not in the same form you wanted it. But what you really, really want underneath all of the layers is what you get, because our will and Hashem's will are in the end inseparable. So from that perspective, you should have a wonderful week.